Where'd he go? Well, I got my hat back. Now I got a massive headache after he slammed me into that tree. A fairly violent encounter. Frankly, I'm gonna get shot. I think I look like just as much a Bigfoot as he does. Finally found him. Finally saw him. Kind of scared now. So, got my hat back. Turns out he doubled back, tried to take my gun. He fears me, and he knows it. I know it. I can smell the fear and the squatch. So anyway, guys, we are nearly finished with the Bigfoot horror review series, and I hope y'all have enjoyed the adventure so far. Mostly finding nothing, but it's a very pretty card though. Anyway, I want to talk about a really good movie. Well, I think it's a pretty good movie, and I got my trusty little paper here because, of course, y'all know I don't remember anything. And it's a movie from a movie directed by Eduardo Sanchez, who also did the original Blair Witch Project. So, of course, you know it's a found footage movie. Starring Chris Osborne, Roger Edwards, Dora Madison Burge, Denise Williamson, Samuel Davis, J.D. Schwann, and Brian Steele. Now, this is a straight-up horror movie. Probably one of the better ones. One of the more competently made Bigfoot horror movies that I've reviewed. One that I really enjoyed watching, too, frankly. Really liked the suit. The actors were decent. A fairly enjoyable movie. So, before he comes after me again, let me introduce you to 2014's found footage Bigfoot movie, Exists. Exist stars Chris Osborne as Brian, also a Vampire Diaries, Westworld, Until Dawn, and he voices Alan Grant in Lego Jurassic World the game. Dora Madison Berg plays Dora, also of Christmas Bloody Christmas, Chicago Fire/Med, Dexter, and The Loft. Roger Edwards plays Todd, also of Circus of the Dead, Captain Phillips, and Rectify. Denise Williamson plays Elizabeth, also of Maggie, Killer Schoolgirls from Outer Space, and Boggy Creek. Samuel Davis plays Matt, also of Better Call Saul, From Dusk Till Dawn, Machete Kills, and This Is Us. Brian Steele plays the Bigfoot, also of Hellboy 1 and 2, Doom, Predators, Underworld, Creature, The Cave, and Harry and the Hendersons. J.P. Schwann plays Uncle Bob, also of Sin City, Exterminators, and he also does the stunts for Panic, Fear the Walking Dead, and the Friday the 13th remake. George B. Gakumas Jr. plays a fireworks salesman, and he has also been in the art department for Mortal Kombat Conquest and In Search Of. Stephanie Sanchez plays the 911 operator, and Doug Fields plays a Bigfoot double, also doing the makeup for Machete at Revolution, and working in the art department for Alita Battle Angel. Exist is written, edited, and directed by Eduardo Sanchez of the Blair Witch Project, Blair Witch, and 5 episodes of Supernatural. Producers include Robin Cowie, Mary Beth Chambers, Jane Fleming, Mike Elizalde, Reed Ferrix, Greg Hale, Andrew Jenkins, D. Todd Shepard, Mark Ordesky, and George Wad. Jamie Nash also co-wrote the film, and further editing was handled by Andy Jenkins and Andrew Eklund. Music was handled by Nima Vakrova, with cinematography by John W. Rutland. Sound design was handled by Kevin Hill, Matt Davies, Leslie Bloom, Jamie Horrigan, and Jason Struckhausen. Makeup was handled by Catherine Croyle Conrad, Mike Elizalde, Doug Field, Meredith Johns, Jenny Lynn, Cass McClure, with creature design by Mike Elizalde. Special effects were handled by Mary Elizalde, Bernard Eccles, Brent Baker, Roland Blankenfer, Darren Boisseau, Everett E. Byron III, Craig Byrom, Bill Flesh, Claire Flewin, Frederick Fraley, Sally Ray, Bruce Spaulding Fuller, Steve Frusher, Tim Gore, Hiroshi Katagiri, Junko Komori, Neil Wynn, Mary Cruz, Cass McClure, Sylvia Neva, Larry Odian, Alejandro Palma, James Patterson, Travis Poston, Yoichi Art Sakamoto, Mario Torres Jr., Kevin McTurk, and Spectral Motion. Visual effects were handled by Don Chenette, Josh Hasten, Heather Higginsbottom, Justin Puda, Bob Salsano, and Thomas D. Malser, with casting by Beth Sepko. Production design was handled by Andrew C. White, with costume design by Charlotte Harrigan, and stunts by James Schwan, Clay Dix, Demetrius Andrzejewski, Matt Aquizap, John Arziala, Wes Gibson, Lacey Robinson, Zach Slocum, Shauna West, and Roger Edwards. Kyle David Defcon Crosby and Andrew Ekblad worked as the production supervisors on the film, as well as script supervision handled by Brigham Gresh, with additional music handled by Nima Fakara, Kevin Hill, Annie Perlman, Odessa Talo, and Melissa Chapman, with art direction handled by George Kakumis. The property owner is also listed as Jason Hammond. Production and distribution was handled by Court 5, Hexen Films, Miscellaneous Entertainment, Lionsgate, and Lionsgate Home Entertainment. Exist premiered March 7, 2014 at the South by Southwest Film Festival October 3rd and 24th of 2014, with a limited release. The film has an unknown budget, and state-wise, the gross is estimated to be $41,930, with a worldwide gross of $413,767. The film is rated R with a mixed reception, with a 5.2 out of 10 on IMDb, a 22% on Metascore, and a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. Exist has a few nominations, being the Malayas Film Festival 2014 Jury Prize nominee for Best Film to Eduardo Sanchez, the Fright Meter Awards 2014 Fright Meter Award nominee for Best Makeup, and the South by Southwest Festival Audience Award Midnighters winner, Eduardo Sanchez. Filming locations include Bastrop County, Texas, and Spiderwood Studios in Austin, Texas, from April 9th till June of 2012. The film opens to a group of friends: Todd, played by Roger Edwards, his girlfriend Elizabeth, played by Denise Williamson, Dora, played by Dora Madison Berg, her boyfriend Matt, played by Samuel Davis, and his eccentric brother Brian, played by Chris Osborne. The group, armed with a litany of GoPro cameras, are heading to a remote hunting cabin in the middle of nowhere in the Texas wilderness owned by Matt and Brian's Uncle Bob. After a montage of fun and buying fireworks, the girls film a prank on the sleeping Brian by lighting his beard on fire. All of a sudden, they are jolted once the car hits an unknown animal. They stop to investigate the damage, that being a broken headlight covered in blood. The next second, the boys hear brush moving and see a shadowy figure in the distance, but are alerted back to the car and they continue down the road. After being stopped by several trees blocking the road, they walk the rest of the way to the cabin, but after finding it to be less than stellar and in a mess, as well as being the home of a wild pig, they return to the car for the night, but are later awoken by haunting cries emanating from the woods, which last all the way through the night. The next day, with the intent of making a fun YouTube video, the group enjoy a day of swimming and performing bike stunts at a nearby pond. Todd and Elizabeth sneak off to get some alone time, but are found by a peeping Brian who films them from a distance, and while doing so, he sees something in the woods which startles him and gets him caught. Later that day, after being chastised by the others, Brian takes a walk into the woods, and he explains that his uncle saw something that terrified him enough to abandon the place, and now believes that it could actually be a real Bigfoot. As he continues on, he finds a huge footprint and sees the Bigfoot watching him from afar. Not wanting to antagonize it further, he makes his way back to the others. That night, Brian sleeps outside in a hammock and wakes up to rustling in the brush. He then moronically goes to investigate, but luckily for him, it's just Matt and Todd who get revenge on him for his earlier antics by pelting him with paintballs. But the comeuppance are cut short when the loud cries return and they're scared back into the house. As Brian continues to rattle the group, the creature can be seen on camera stalking around the cabin. Brian, believing the thing has moved on, ends up coming face to face with the creature while filming the window. The frightened group then wait out the night and the next morning try to leave in the car, however it's been completely destroyed, leaving them stranded, so they head back to the cabin. To make things worse, Matt and Brian reveal that their uncle forbids anyone to go to the cabin, so they took the keys without his permission, dismissing his warnings, so no one knows where they are. So Matt, feeling guilty, decides to take a bike and tries to find some good cell reception to call for help. They say their goodbyes, and as Matt leaves, the others fortify the cabin, and while doing so, Todd finds a hidden basement with a loaded shotgun. Matt travels a decent way and is able to call 911. However, the reception keeps breaking, so he instead calls Uncle Bob and tells him they're at the cabin. The beast then appears on the road and begins chasing Matt on his bike. It eventually runs him down, making Matt crash and break his leg. As he tries to stumble away from the creature, it almost antagonistically attacks him, and we cut back to the group. While waiting for Matt to return, the Bigfoot hurls Mike's broken bike at the porch. The group then barricade the doors as the beast attempts to break in. After Todd shoots it once, they move into another room as it enters and he shoots it again. There's a moment of silence before the beast breaks a window, grabbing Elizabeth. The others try to help her, but she's then thrown across the room, knocking her unconscious. Todd picks up Elizabeth and they hide in the cellar just as the Bigfoot breaks in and ransacks the house. Elizabeth comes to for a split second as it finds them and tries to break through the cellar door. Todd then gets a perfect shot, sending the monster fleeing away in pain, but when they check back on Elizabeth, she's dead. The next day, while mourning the loss of their friends, Brian, Todd, and Dora decide to trek through the woods using Brian's shortcut to reach the main road. Along the way, they find the spot of Matt's attack, but there's no body. They hike into the night and eventually find cover, but the Bigfoot returns, sending Todd into a vengeful rage, antagonizing it and blindly shooting into the darkness. And yeah, idiotically shooting to the dark, wasting every shell except one. I will say this, the only redeeming quality for you so far, buddy, is that you're not the first one to die. So that horror rule is broken off. But I will say this, he doesn't exactly go out like a bitch. He does, well, it's kind of a spoiler for later, but anyway. They eventually stumble upon a dilapidated camper and hear Matt cry out in the distance. They find a thicket, so Brian takes a nighttime camera and the gun. Which, looking at that single shell, is just a severe horror disappointment. I mean, seriously, Todd should apologize for that one. He eventually finds his brother severely injured but alive, but also not alone as the beast watches close by. Brian is able to see it and fires the last shot at it before the two drag each other out, reuniting with Todd and Dora. They then head back to the camper, and after Uncle Bob informs them that he's at the cabin, Todd takes a firework to give him a signal. And yeah, I'm not sure why you had to walk 20 feet down the road to do that. You could have just walked right outside the door, went, walked right back in and been completely safe. Obviously, the Bigfoot then shows up and chases Todd under the camper. He tries to fend it off, but it drags him away and throws him up against a tree, killing him. The beast then pushes the camper over the ridge, sending the group tumbling over 40 feet. When Brian regains consciousness, he finds Matt dead and Dora dying. The creature then jumps down and chases Brian over a ridge and into a creek bed. He then plays dead until the creature is satisfied, and it drags all the bodies to one place where the forest has been burned. As Brian gets up, he sees all of his friends dead, but also next to them in a pit, a dead younger Bigfoot, revealing the beast's intentions, which was revenge for the death of its young after the group accidentally hit it with their car. Yep, another Bigfoot movie where the baby Bigfoot got done in by a car. Seriously, I don't know why the Bigfoot's PO'd at these people. I mean, it's the one car, literally the one car that goes into this area like once a year or even maybe a decade, and your baby just so happens to run out in front of it. Like, seriously, Bigfoot parents need to teach their kids how to look both ways before crossing the street, especially in the middle of the woods. You're not possums, you're evolved enough simians. You should have enough intelligence to know to avoid the one car going through this rural road. I'm sorry, I'm blaming the Bigfoot in this instance. The Bigfoot then forces the heartbroken Brian to look at its dead infant, but Uncle Bob shows up, scaring the beast off with a gunshot, and the two make a hasty retreat. They nearly make it to the truck, but the Bigfoot kills Uncle Bob, and Brian takes his gun and pleads with the creature to stop. As it does, he drops the gun and sorrowfully apologizes. He then drops to his knees and makes one last statement to the camera, waiting for the Bigfoot to kill him. But for whatever reason, whether to let him live with the grief or accepting his guilt, it lets him live, and the wounded creature leaves. Brian breaks down and sets the camera on the ground facing the truck, and the movie ends. And yeah, killed all these other people, but somehow you're going to take his apology. In the end, the movie only has 6 deaths. Well, I mean, say only, it's actually a decent number enough. 5 humans and 1 baby Bigfoot. That was deserved. Director Eduardo Sanchez, famous for launching the found footage film genre with 1999's The Blair Witch Project, had wanted to make a Bigfoot horror film before Blair Witch, even considering the fabled beast to be the main antagonist. And still wanted to make a Bigfoot movie over 10 years before Exist went into production. He brought on friend and co-writer Jamie Nash to helm his script, which started out as a conventionally shot film. However, Sanchez felt as the logistics in the story progressed, he would need to go back to his found footage roots, and a cabin in the woods plot was chosen as the backdrop of the story akin to Evil Dead. Eduardo then needed a Bigfoot to star in the movie, so he turned to Weta Workshops of King Kong 2005 and both the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogies, who created some designs. Sanchez then chose a look more resembling a prehistoric man or Neanderthal, or rather prehistoric woman, as the creature in the movie is noted as being female. As a further tease in the burned forest, another mound can be seen next to the dead cub, insinuating that the mother Bigfoot had also buried her mate. Spectrum Motion, who would also go on to create the Bigfoot suit in The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot just 5 years later. By the way, check out that previous review for The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot. Designed the Bigfoot suit. Mike Gazalde, a friend of Sanchez and owner of Spectral Motion, recommended suit performer Brian Steele, who himself had played Harry in the 3rd season of the Harry and Henderson sitcom from 1991 to 1993. Sanchez was adamant about not having a CGI Bigfoot. Brian did all of his own stunts, including jumping 20 feet onto the camper, all while spending hours on end in the hot, sweaty suit. For food, Brian had a steady diet of chicken fingers and a special Powerade mix. Spectral Motion also created a 4-foot-tall cub puppet, supposed to be around 5 to 6 years old. Sanchez ended up keeping the cub puppet and 1 year later laid it on his front porch as a Halloween prop. 2 sets of masks would also be used for up-close and distant shots. Filming took just 21 days in the Texas woods during the fall, and had to be delayed due to the wildfires. However, this exterior would be incorporated into the movie. First day of filming was heavily short-handed with the threat of snakes and Dora Berg accidentally giving Denise Williamson poison ivy, but this was not the end of Denise's malfortune, after she also hurt her ankle. Doug Fields took over as the Bigfoot for the road hit scene, since Brian Steele had not yet arrived, and Doug happened to have a spare Bigfoot suit. And as a reference to the famous Patterson-Gimlin film, he was instructed by Sanchez to make the same stride. Fake extensions were put onto Brian for the beard burn prank, and it was also very difficult filming the burned forest scene due to the heat. Sanchez studied supposed Bigfoot nests from all around the world as reference for the beast's nest in the film. The nest in the film, however, was actually made on a soundstage at Spiderwood Studios. The upturned tree in the film and promotional poster was fabricated and still stands at the studio as well. Sound designer Matt Davies used a device made of pipes he dubbed a Sasquatchophone to provide roars for the actors to hear before the new roars would be added in post.
Again, as they're arguing and shit.
Which were all original and not stock sounds. A petting zoo potbelly pig named Porkchop was used to scare the group upon finding the hunting cabin. Eduardo Sanchez's wife Stephanie Sanchez also makes a cameo as the 911 operator, and production designer Andrew White created the prop feet used to make the Bigfoot tracks. The cabin attack was inspired by films like Evil Dead and The Legend of Boggy Creek. An air pressure cannon was used to launch Mac's bike at the cabin. And as well, after the clean cabin scenes were shot, the crew had a little fun crashing the cabin. The actors worked off the script but had a lot of improv fun, especially Roger Edwards, who had many dialogue scenes cut for time. The doubles had their fair share of fun too, with paintball guns and bikes flying into the pond.
Looking to the left, look back right at the time the log's right at the front tire and it's all front brake and over the bars.
You okay, buddy? Good. Awesome, we good. That's a cut.
On the last one, I flew probably about 12 feet at least before I hit the ground.
How'd that feel?
Pretty good impact.
However, some stunts were not as easy, especially when it came to the camper over the cliff scene. To film the inside chaos, cameras and stunt actors were placed inside a camper on a gimbal rig, or as it was commonly referred to as the rotisserie, and turned several times, much to the dismay of the producers and crew waiting from outside. For the outside destruction of the camper, a crane would push and move the thing around to look like the beast was really trashing the camper. As for the scene where Brian Steele leaps down to the camper, the scene was filmed against a 20-foot muddy rooted background, and during Matt's chase scene, Brian Steele ran beside an ATV for the scene. While the film portrays the usage of GoPro Hero 2s, really only some stunts were shot with them. Most of the film was shot with 5DS and SLRs. Cameras were placed in fortified buckets to withstand the blunt force and portray the tumbling shots as well as Todd's attack. Speaking of Todd, his death was probably the most elaborate, as he was put into a cable vest and thrown into a tree. In the scene earlier where the creature throws rocks at Dora, Todd, and Brian, crew hid in the woods and threw foam rocks, and further impact sounds were added later on. Originally, the camper attack was meant to take place at night. One crazy thing a day was the motto on set, and as Sanchez admits, that in film you gotta make characters do stupid shit to engage with the audience. Digital flies were added for the corpses of the group and the cub, and 5D cams placed on sandbags portrayed the dragging bodies. As well, the safe word that the cast and crew used was unicorn. In a slight funny turn of events, Jeff Schwan, who coordinated stunts and portrayed Uncle Bob in the movie, says he had an actual Bigfoot encounter that freaked him out. In regards to the Bigfoot, Sanchez didn't want to make it a flat-out malicious monster, so he made sure to give the creature a character arc as well, and made it very intelligent and have just as much brain as brawn. In the production, Sanchez reached out to researchers and believers alike, and in the end, Exist was Bigfooter approved. Many good scenes were cut to make room for scenes with the Bigfoot. The original cut did not have Brian investigating the car the next morning. As well, there were other pitches throughout filming for where to introduce the dead cub. Deleted and extended scenes include an alternate opening. This includes an alternate title card, more improv amongst the actors, shooting bottle rockets out of the car, cast walking around in scenic areas, and the group being worried about the bridge shown at the end of the film. However, test audiences didn't connect with the characters, so it was cut. Fixing the generator / Liz spots the creature. This deleted scene shows Brian's know-how to fix lawnmowers and him getting the generator fixed, and also a sort of crush between him and Dora. Liz then screams saying she saw a man in her window, to which Matt and Todd think he's creeping again. But then they find another footprint. This scene also shows Denise in a bandage from when she hurt her ankle. Brian and Matt then argue over the possibility of a Bigfoot lurking nearby, and Brian brings up how as kids they found Uncle Bob's mutilated hunting dogs. This scene also takes place after Brian finds the first footprint. Alternate Dora and Brian talk. This scene takes place after Matt's attack, and Brian tells Dora about Matt giving Brian credit for shooting a buck when they were kids. An alternate idea was for Brian to tell Dora about Uncle Bob's mutilated dogs, which was recorded and changed in post with ADR. Todd puts on camera. This scene takes place shortly after Matt's rescue, and just before Todd sets off the fireworks, Pump believing the creature is dead, and he asks Brian for a GoPro. Alternate ending. This is mostly the same scene after the Bigfoot kills Uncle Bob. Brian is more emotional, and more ADR is used, only seconds are cut, and there's an alternate end title card. End credits Easter egg. This scene takes place directly after the end title card, and shows the mother Bigfoot mourning and burying her dead cub. This is the second film Jamie Nash had written for Sanchez. They note that it was a big experiment and the Bigfoot movie they always wanted to make. So all in all, what can I say about Exists? This was actually a really good Bigfoot horror movie. I only just watched it when I decided to cover the series. I actually watched it on my anniversary with my fiance when we were going over a couple of movies. So this one was actually really good. Back there, I had to watch and listen to all the audio commentary and whatnot.
I'm cut. Jeff, you okay?
Oh, God.
Jeff, talk to us.
That was a lot of fun.
All right. And he's okay, everybody. And he's okay.
How was that last one in your ass?
You can kind of see the cover art there. But all in all, let's talk about the monster first, because that's how I always do it. Talk about the monster. One of the better designs compared to the previous ones. I'd say, Well, I would say in terms of being made, because this is from Spectral Motion. They also did the creature for The Man Who Killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot. And both of the creatures they created are good in their own right. Because they also both go for different feels. This one going for the more traditional Bigfoot kind of look, although in a way also not so familiar with it being more of a Neanderthal or a prehistoric human-esque looking creature. And The Man Who Killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot, it's much more like Gollum or Smeagol. Very just, what would you say, troll-like creature, Bigfoot. So they both kind of accomplish that in different ways. But this one was very well made. You can still, especially, I kind of prefer not seeing the face because I like how it kind of also looks bigger, especially when it's running alongside the ATV. It looks bigger to me. But then you kind of see its face, and it looks more human, which I guess works out. It doesn't really look... I think there's only one scene where it kind of spooked me in a way, and it's when he turns on the camera, and you see in the window, you know, it's going... It's roaring at the camera, roaring at the window. Other than that, it's not a very scary Bigfoot. I'd say the Man Who Killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot is also scary, but it's only because it looks like it just looks creepy. But although I would say it definitely looks scarier than Snow Beast or the other Snow Beast or definitely Bigfoot 2012. I still think the scariest Bigfoot thus far on the list is Big Legends Bigfoot. That is way more scary than the hairy woman here. But it's not a bad design. It definitely works because I mean it's Bigfoot. It's supposed to be like a big monkey woman in this one. So all in all, it works out for the most part. It's not as scary, but it works. I mean, it works for what it's supposed to be. I would say Monstrous is also somewhat scary, but more so because it's definitely bigger. It's showing the size, kind of show off the Bigfoot. I don't think I've shown off the back of the shirt enough. You can barely see the Bigfoot. Anyway, I think it's a decent enough Bigfoot. In terms of it looking realistic, definitely higher up there. Maybe not as scary, but definitely higher up there on the believability factor. Really good, although I will say the plot about the baby Bigfoot is stupid because we gotta work on this, people. The baby Bigfoots cannot be this dumb. And the mom cannot be this angry at people because she didn't teach her kid to not run out in front of the only car in rural Texas. So, other than that, also the baby Bigfoot is also really good. Because we actually have two creatures in this one, being well technically also monstrous, but we don't see the monstrous baby Bigfoot design. We do see it with this one. The cub, it really looks cool. I would have loved to have been one of the kids that went up on Halloween to Director Sanchez's house when the baby Bigfoot puppet is just sitting there. I think that would have been cool. All in all, so the Bigfoot, really good, I think. So, character-wise, I might have to get my paper out because, let's be honest, I've forgotten all these people. So, let's start with Brian. Brian is our pretty much main and protagonist. I think he was the most... Well, other than his brother, probably got along with Matt more. Isn't it? Yeah, got along with Matt much more. He's the much more level-headed guy. Yes, somewhat self-sacrificing, except the fact that he and his brother neglected to tell everyone, oh yeah, there might be a murderous Bigfoot out here. But to each their own. I did enjoy how all of the actors went off each other. I thought the chemistry between the actors was great, especially Roger Edwards as Todd. I really liked Todd up until using all the shells in the gun. He was great up until then. So pretty much all that. But for the most part, I think the girls worked together great. I think all the guys worked together great. I think they did a really decent job working with each other. And all the fun they seem to have while making the movie. I also enjoyed the audio commentary. I think they were all involved in it. It's been over a year since I've watched the audio commentary. But I think they all did a really decent job doing this movie. And I really enjoyed the acting for what it is, the found footage film. You gotta, like the director even said, you gotta make people do some stupid shit to be entertaining. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. Cinematography and whatnot, I mean, it's all supposed to look like a GoPro you know, so there's not much to say in terms of the cinematography. But for what they do with it, it looks really good. All the editing is well done. I really, yeah. And as well, all the deaths worked out pretty well. Definitely intimidating. I would say probably, well, between Matt and Todd's deaths were probably the most, I don't know, Liz's death was pretty, Dora she just died from fall damage. Todd probably had the best death, getting just slammed up against, just slammed up against a tree and all that. That was pretty sick. Matt, well, technically we think he's dead. He's, you know, the first mauling, and then he pretty much also dies from fall damage. So Todd has the best death. Although Elizabeth kind of comes in a quick second, because because it's one of the selling shots in the trailer. It's her getting lifted up and yanked up against the wall by the Bigfoot. All in all, the story-wise, the movie also does a decent job, because it's a found footage movie. You don't really have to do much with the premise. You just kind of have to get from one area to the next kill, next encounter, next all that. But for the most part, the story is pretty fun. It's very Evil Dead, even really Legend of Boggy Creek-esque, which they do mention in here, and it does really feel like Legend of Boggy Creek. So I do enjoy even the feel of it, like in the woods and whatnot. It feels very Legend of Boggy Creek as well. So all in all, I really enjoyed this movie. Not really too much to say other than it's definitely up there in terms of Bigfoot horror movies, because it is actually a Bigfoot horror movie, and it's definitely higher tier than the Snow Beast movies. I will say that. And Bigfoot 2012. So anyway, I would probably give this film a rating of 7 out of 10. I think 7 out of 10 works. It's a serviceable movie. Definitely one to watch if you're doing a Bigfoot horror movie night or watch along, whatever. Movie night definitely works for that. 7 out of 10 for me. So all in all, thanks guys for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Hope y'all enjoyed this video and all the behind the scenes stuff I was able to gather about it. Highly recommend Exists 2014. Give it a watch from the same people who also did the work in the last Overdue review for The Man Who Killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot. Also did the suit for that, as well as this, as Exists. So let's hit the 10,000 subscriber mark, and happy Halloween.